Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, featuring industry thought leaders sharing problem-solving insights to help grow your business and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stuart Andrew Alexander.
Hi everyone, Stuart Andrew Alexander here, and on this segment of the show, we have Mary Salisbury calling in all the way from Wilmington, North Carolina, who's a certified divorce financial analyst at the Right Divorce Solution LLC. Now, Mary helps singles and couples going through divorce to structure a financial settlement which ensures a better financial outcome, lessens stress, and when all said and done, works out to be more affordable for all parties involved. So with that said, I can't wait to hear more. Let's welcome her to the show. Mary, are you there?
Yeah, I am, Stuart. Good morning.
Good morning to you as well, Mary. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and speak with our guests today. So with that said, Mary, let's jump straight in. Can you briefly describe the kind of people you serve and the kinds of situations they find themselves in when they come to you for help?
Yeah, what I tell people when they ask me what I do is that I help people have a calmer, less stressful, more affordable, and financially smart divorce. So my goal is to attract people who don't want the divorce to be an expensive court battle and are able to be, somewhat reasonable. So, usually my clients have been married for at least 10 years, and they've intertwined their assets and also debts. We have to split up debts as well, and now they need to find the best solution for dividing them up. In some situations, they're able to work amicably, but in other situations, they're working with an attorney because they're in the weaker position of having to fight for what is fair and equitable. And, once one side hires an attorney, the other side is pretty much stuck doing the same to protect themselves. My clients don't need to have a really complex financial picture to benefit from my advice. There are a lot of pitfalls, which I think are more than justify my fees. Ideally, I want to find people early in the process because I think the whole process, even those with significant assets, makes people feel really poor. And they, if they get too far into the divorce process and they've already spent a bunch in attorney fees, they feel reluctant to bring in another professional, even though I think my benefits far outweigh my costs.
Okay, great. We'll have an opportunity to speak about one of those pitfalls very shortly. But until then, when you think about the people who you help, Mary, what's the most common misconception you come across surrounding the topic of divorce and how you help the people who you work with?
Well, I think in this country that people think they only have two choices when it comes to a divorce. Either they have to get an attorney, or a lot of people just really don't want to work with an attorney. They've had a bad experience, so they try to have a do-it-yourself divorce. So the longer I do this, the more I see how the system in this country has failed to provide anything but a legal and adversarial system to structure divorce settlements, which, to me, a divorce settlement is mostly a financial settlement. So I advise my clients, I do advise my clients to get to know their legal rights when it comes to divorce, and I will provide them with a short list of various options to get either free or an inexpensive consultation. And at the end of my process, I also advise my clients to have an attorney draw up the legal papers. So because I think that's very important, and we don't want things to come back and bite them just because some legal language was left out. But I know I was divorced after 26 years of marriage, and I know from experience, because my attorney did not give me any financial guidance. And I think that clients are thinking that attorneys are going to give them financial guidance, but what I see happen is that they're leaving it up to the clients to decide what to do, and it's not until years later that clients are finding out the mistakes that, in the decisions that they made.
Okay,
So,
Mary. So let's dig a little bit deeper into that misconception. So you said one of the biggest misconceptions out there are people who have a do-it-yourself attitude towards divorce. Can you share then, obviously in your own words and keeping client confidentiality in mind, can you share a scenario where you've helped somebody who came to you and they had that, yeah, I can do most of this by myself kind of approach? Can you share some of the results that you were able to obtain with a client like that, please?
yeah, I can give you. I'd like to just give you a really typical example of the kind of client that comes to me. In this case, I had a couple. They'd been married 18 years. They had a couple kids. Prior to being married, they both worked for the government, so they were fortunate, and then they each had a pretty decent pension that would come to them later in life. And the wife typically, well, as is typical, she stayed home for a period of time, stopped her career, and took care of the children while they were young. So, now they are both back to work, working in the private sector. And I met them shortly after they separated, and the wife was, she was still in the marital home. The husband had moved out and was renting a home, and they were trying to be amicable, but figuring out how they could each wanted to purchase a home. After they sold the existing marital home, they wanted to divide their pensions. They had a 401k, an IRA. They had credit card debt. Some student loans still outstanding, and then they had the child and spousal support, and it was just way too complex for them to figure out how to handle this. So, what I did is I met with each of them individually to discuss their post-divorce goals, which I keep that private, and I don't discuss that between the two, but it gives me some guidance. And then their job is to provide me all their financial documents and their budgets. And I put that all into. I have some very specialized financial software that's just particular to divorce, family law. And what I do is I draw up. After I put that all in, I come up with some options, some settlement options that feel like fair starting points. And we have a meeting and we hash it all out. And then when that's completed, I draw up the settlement points and send them to an attorney to draw up the legal paperwork. And it's a pretty fast process. I mean, the slowest part is them gathering the financial information, which can be kind of daunting, but it has to be done in whatever scenario you divorce through. But what I think an attorney did not do in this, would not have done in this process, is to provide them these reports and charts that I generate that will show my clients the long-term consequences of what their settlement solutions are. I do like what-if scenarios by changing just a few entries in my software, and all of my data input takes in consideration tax implications and inflation, appreciation, or depreciation of something like maybe a car. And I'm also able to calculate present values of things like spousal support, which I think is very important because I know in North Carolina, a woman loses her spousal maintenance, spousal support when she remarries, which I think holds women, hostage. So I always, if possible, try to find how we can buy out the spousal support. So in this particular case with this couple, the wife ultimately did receive more than 50% of the marital estate. But I was able to show the husband, who had substantially higher income because he had been he had never had a break in his working career. I showed him that his, net worth would still be very substantial at retirement, and it made this very much more acceptable to him. I can't say I can't go as far as to say they were friends at the end, but they certainly weren't enemies. And I do think that as a result of this going through my process, they'll be far better parents. And I think they'll both be able to just go ahead and move on with their lives. So I think that the way my process works and the reports that I generate and just seeing things in black and white it keeps things real instead of this being just a big emotional process.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing that with us, Mary. So, in terms of these singles and couples who are out there right now listening to you speak on this interview, and they're going through divorce and wanting a better financial outcome and obviously less stress and wanting to save as much money as possible, can you just please share one unknown and very common pitfall that they might not be but should be aware of?
Yes, the marital home is the number one pitfall. I think that people, where people make their biggest mistakes. It's one of the biggest assets, and especially for women, there's a lot of emotional connection to the home, and they feel it gives them stability. If there's kids still at home, she feels guilty. She doesn't want to uproot the kids. If they're already going through divorce, and now they're going to uproot them from their home, and so there's a lot of emotional distress connected with moving out of the marital home. But while the home is an appreciating asset, it's also very illiquid, and it can end up draining their net worth. So I meet a lot of women, down the road, a few years down the road from their divorce, and what I just described is exactly what happened to them. They kept a home that they really couldn't afford, and now they are struggling, to cover the cost of that home, to keep up the mortgage. So one of my jobs is having to be the bad guy and tell them that they really should not keep the home. And another thing about the family home is that, the trade-off between keeping a family home and giving up other assets may initially look like an equal trade-off at first glance, but when you apply anything like taxes and capital gains and the cost of selling, they can be actually very unequal assets. I mean, when you compare a $100,000 maybe stock account versus $100,000 in equity, that after everything is said and done, they can be very that's very unequal when it comes to selling those assets and what you end up with. So the marital home is probably one of the biggest reasons why women end up with a much lower standard of living after divorce. So I don't think that people are pointing out the long-term implications of that. So I want to help people, make a smart financial decision when it comes to keeping your marital home.
Okay, Mary, it's been a great interview so far, and you shared a lot of great information, and I'm sure somebody who's listening to you right now would love to know a little bit more about Mary Salisbury. Who is she? What does she do? How did she get started? So in your own words, Mary, could you briefly tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of your background, your education, and experience as it relates to the topic of divorce and financial settlements, please, in your own words?
Yeah, well, I graduated from the University of Miami. I was an economics major, and right after college, I spent 11 years specializing as an ERISA paralegal. And most people don't know what ERISA paralegal is, but that is someone who specializes in employee benefits and retirement plans. So during that time, I got some specialized designations, and that knowledge, it's funny how things can come full circle, but that knowledge has helped me right now with retirement plans and executive compensation plans, which are really common assets when it comes to your high net worth clients. And attorneys, the more I get to know them, are admitting to me that those documents are completely Greek to them. So I've become a very valuable resource to attorneys in my area for that particular aspect of the divorce estate. And after that, I worked with my ex-husband as he was a bankruptcy trustee. We ran a very, very large practice out in Los Angeles, and we reorganized any kind of business you could possibly imagine. So that has given me a lot of legal and business knowledge that helps me apply to especially the self-employed that I come across. It helps me understand their business a lot better and help me figure out how to divide that part of their business or that part of their marital estate. And I already mentioned I was divorced myself after 26 years of marriage, and so I know what it feels like. I know how expensive it can be. We spent $20,000 in legal fees between the two of us, and I would not say our divorce was adversarial in any way. But in California, attorney fees are about $350 an hour, and it does not take long to run up a bill like that. So, and then after my divorce, I became a financial advisor and got my insurance licenses and my 6, 7, 63, and 65 registrations. And it was during that time when I got my CDFA designation, and I started seeing the huge void in the divorce niche as far as advising clients on how to divide a marital estate in a financially smart manner. And, particularly these days now that there's so many gray divorces where people are who've been married 20, 30, or even more years are getting a divorce, and that's happening at a rate of about one a week here in Wilmington, which is not even that big of a city. So, it's sad, but that's what's happening these days. It's becoming really well known. A lot of articles are being written about that fact. So it's funny that even though the CDFA designation has not been around, or it's been around for about 20 years now, it's still really not well known. So I'm educating both the public and the family law attorneys on the fact that the service is missing. And it's something that I think is really sorely needed. So, my passion is to really get the word out and to change the way divorces are approached from, a legal solution to a financial solution.
Okay, great. So, Mary, we are coming to the end of our show today. So, before you go, just keeping the main topic of what you're speaking about in mind and the people who you help the most, those singles and couples out there going through divorce, what would be your absolute best piece of advice for those people?
Well, my advice would be if you've been married for 10 years or have, say, about $100,000 in net worth, don't go to an attorney first. Come find yourself a CDFA. We're all over the country. I give free half-hour consultations. I explore with the either individuals or couples that I meet with what role I can serve in the divorce process. I really try to keep the divorce amicable or at least civil. I think I save people a lot of money. And I will recommend attorneys who aren't there to stir the pot and just build up fees. I think people really do end up with a better solution at a much lower cost. Plus, I give them an idea of what their financial future looks like. My reports go 20 years into the future, so I think that's something that they don't get in the legal process either.
So I did say that it was the last question, but you raised a point that I think needs to be clarified. You said don't go to an attorney first. Could you just expand on that and why you actually say that so that the listener knows exactly why you're actually advising them not to go to an attorney first, but to go to a divorce analyst?
Well, first of all, as I said before, I do recommend an attorney consultation, but it's really important which attorney you pick. So, there are attorneys who are like-minded, as with me, who don't want the whole process to be, a blown-up affair. But and I also feel that. Again, this is a financial settlement. This is not, this shouldn't be a legal fight. It really, I think attorneys are there to provide, to draft up the legal documentation. And if there's child custody issues, then definitely attorney must be involved. But, I really feel like, the society's created a way that people divorce it. I think it's wrong-minded. It should be about the family, and it's about your finances. And it should not be a litigation process.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time today, Mary. So if there's anybody out there who wants to know more, how would they be able to connect with you, Mary?
Okay, well, you said my business is called The Right Divorce Solution, so my website is www.therightdivorcesolution.com, and I can be reached at mary@therightdivorcesolution.com.
Okay, thank you so much. That was Mary Salisbury. That was a great interview. And thank you all, the singles and couples out there going through a divorce. Unfortunately, obviously not a nice situation to be in, but thank you for joining us for this amazing interview with one of the top divorce financial solutions experts around today. So again, my name's Stuart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with one more divorce professional in this, our series of divorce related conversations. So until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.